Let's turn to our next topic, which is talent and succession planning. And of course, for any business, a perennial challenge is to find and attract and retain the most talented people, and of course, to build a team with those people. So we could start with you, Ed, if you could just talk about how your company competes, not so much on compensation, but on culture. How would you describe your culture? How do you compete on culture?
Sure. We do compete on culture, and for us it really is attracting great people when they have lots of options. You know, I remember when I was interviewing students at Waterloo, and the dilemma 10 years ago was, would you even consider coming to a Toronto-based tech company? Most of them really wanted to go down to Google. And you know, everything in San Francisco, everything in Silicon Valley was where everybody wanted to go. And it was pretty clear that everybody saw all the neat tech being done down on the West Coast. And you know, one of the things that's really shifted is interesting tech is being done in this Waterloo-Toronto corridor for sure. So that's helped. But I think the thing that's really made a big difference for our organization is committing to a culture that allows people to stay not just because of the interesting work, but because of the opportunities to have a decent balanced life. And decent balanced life is part of one of the things that we really look for our staff. So let me just talk about why we're doing this. In our industry, there is regularly 30% turnover year over year of staff, and that's kind of the standard metric. Everybody from IBM through to the Indian offshore companies have 30% turnover. And from our world, if you're really going to create great customer satisfaction, you need great employee satisfaction. And the way we kind of measure our NPS scores, I think everyone in the room would be familiar about NPS scores or Net Promoter Scores. In the industry, people don't really like tech companies. I think 23% to 30% Net Promoter Scores are pretty typical. So if you go and you ask the Net Promoter Score for IBM, or you ask the Net Promoter Score for Tata or for EPAM, you're going to find it's much lower than it is in some other industries. And for us, our Net Promoter Score is in that 75% range to the 90% range, which you know is pretty phenomenal. And the only way we can get to that 70% or that 90% range is because we have consistent staff staying with the customers and actually understanding the customer's business. So for us, getting our ability to build our brand the way Kielhauer has done is dependent upon our staff. So for us, there's a direct trade-off in basically being able to have better customer sat and be able to have better relations with building the brand throughout the market. The other part that's been really neat about culture is that our turnover rates, I said, are around 5%. And in an industry where the turnover rates are pretty high, it lowers our overall cost structure. So we don't have recruiting fees, we don't have training fees. We actually are able to deliver great things to folks. So one of the things we do is we kind of measure, are we doing this right? So the one stat that helps us measure it is that turnover. Turnover spikes, we know that we've got a problem. The other one is that we apply for a whole bunch of external awards. So I don't know if anyone in the room has participated in Great Places to Work yet. If you haven't, look up Great Places to Work. They're an interesting organization that has a lot of resources online that basically talk about best practices in building culture in organizations. And we kind of try and make sure that we're in line with what we think are the best practices. And the best practices aren't foosball tables, guys. They're not having stuff in the lunchroom. You know, those are things that everybody thinks is what's culture these days. But what culture is all about is transparency, and culture is about communication. And if you can do things around transparency and communication, you're going to see your culture improving in the organization and some of the noise disappearing. And for us, getting rid of some of the noise and all the chatter in the back rooms is a big part of what we've been able to do to build, you know, a pretty well recognized culture, a pretty well-recognized organization that actually is paying off for us on the bottom line.
And how do you seek to improve that? I mean, you've done well, you've found a great resource. How do you, in a sense, challenge yourselves to go a bit higher as a next step in that culture?
So part about it is the external validation. So we go about, surveying people a lot. One that I'll share with folks that I have no affiliation with, but it's really worked out well for us, is an organization out of Quebec City called Office Vibe. And Office Vibe, V-I-B-E, does surveying of our staff to create what we call is a ENPS, an Employee Net Promoter Score. So every 2 weeks, our staff basically receives a short email that has somewhere between 5 and 10 questions. They can answer that in the span of 20 seconds, or if they really want to be thoughtful about it, they can spend 2 whole minutes on it. But what we do is we track this every 2 weeks forever. And we really try to see, what's going on with the sentiment in our organizations. Are we actually aligned with people on 10 different dimensions? Office Vibe is pretty cool because it basically divides it into teams. So my team is the leadership team, and I understand anonymously how the leadership team is feeling. And it gives them a regular feedback mechanism to tell me, okay, this is something that you need to do different these days. Sometimes you can look at the detailed departmental analysis and say, okay, this one part of our practice is really suffering because of all the stress that's caused by the individual projects that they're on. So then, okay, how do you go down to that level in the organization and support those folks? You walk the halls a bit, you start talking to people a bit more in that area because you actually have a feedback mechanism that's telling you that, hey, this group is under stress or something else is going on with the leader. And those are the kind of things that you stay on top of it. And you listen a lot. Did a long trip throughout North America, and I said, this is really cool. How do we actually do this for our staff where they can actually take a break? So we put in something called a mini retirement. And we don't have a pension plan. A bunch of folks have asked us about a pension plan, and what we basically said is, for us and our workforce, mini retirements is one of the things that we think our workforce really likes. So after 3 years in the company, everybody gets an extra 2 weeks of holidays. And that's just for that 1 year on the 4th year when they're in the company, or the 7th year or the 10th year. And the idea is take a break, take 4 weeks off, and go ride a motorcycle, or go spend the time up at the cottage with your kids, or find a way to do something that really is attractive to you. So for us, 2 weeks of vacation once every 3 years is not a particularly expensive thing for our staff. It cost us about $1,200 per employee, but it's been absolutely amazing sharing those stories with everybody when someone comes back. We actually write a check to some people in the organization, depending upon levels, that actually helps fund their vacation. What you're trying to do is think creatively about ways that aren't expensive that help to build the culture. And you're going to monitor it, and you're going to try and tie it into something that actually is a business metric. And for us, employee retention is a pretty important metric, and certainly Net Promoter Score and the way we actually have our customer sat measured is important for us as well.
Rick, what are some of the important measurements in your business as to employee satisfaction?
Yeah.
And how do you build a culture in your organization? What's worked?
Well, a lot of similar things. Like I said, it's not the foosball tables and that type of thing. Communication is important. We have very open communication with our staff, so they always know what's going on. We're fairly open even on some of the basic financial stuff. They know where we are, and they want to know where we are, and they want to know how they can make a difference. Another big thing is people want to know, when they're doing a good job, they want to hear about it. If there's a challenge, they want to know about it, and that as well too. So we really try to put an emphasis on celebrating wins. And if it's an individual win, we want to come out and let them know. And if you do it, put it publicly in front of the whole staff, that's great. But if not, try to catch them in person, or if you're traveling, at least try to get an email out. And so I do that every time there's a win. It doesn't have to be a significant win, but People want that, right? They want that appraised to know how they're doing and so forth. Same as if there's a challenge, even if it's a little thing, communicate and talk about it early. Don't wait till it's a problem and you got to pull somebody in and talk about it. You keep that open communication going. And so we're a big proponent of that, and we haven't had any issues really with staff that way. So the other things we do on the culture side that's worked, you talked a little bit, Ed, about the vacation thing. It's something similar as well too. You know, there can be companies that are bigger than ours that can afford to pay more than we do. Somebody who's downtown, we're in the Newmarket area, could say they're going to pay more, but vacation is hard to get. You know, you might start with 2 weeks, you might start with 3 weeks, depending on what level on that you're on. But to get to 4, to get to 5 weeks, and that is very difficult. And a few years ago, what we did, we were doing our annual raises with everyone, and we said, listen, you can either take your 2% raise or whatever, if that was the average that we had that year, or you can take an extra week's vacation. So unlike only getting it once, because it's an increase in their salary, they keep it. So if they're at 3 weeks, they're now at 4. They're not waiting to 5 years to get there. They actually get it and they continue. So again, when the people are coming to them and they maybe offer them more money, but they're saying you start at 2 or you start at 3 weeks, and they're already at 4 or 5. They don't want to give up that holidays, right? I think people really get excited about experiences, especially younger people. It's not just all about the money, it's about the experience that they can get and the free time and the memories that they can create, both in business and in their personal time, as you mentioned. Take a few weeks off and go do something you normally wouldn't be able to do. So we do a lot of that. And then we have regular events that we try to do. We talked about it a lot, I would say, for years, and about 3 or 4 years ago, we said we got to start planning these special events. So hitting major occasions throughout the year where we do something special, and then once a quarter as a team, we just get off-site completely and do something fun. And people talk about that years later, about those times, those social times they could spend to get to know the rest of the staff better.
Great. Mike, how have you found building your culture, and is personal time, getting people more personal time to become fuller person, to gain more experience, is that a part of it?
It is important. We have a scaled vacation program. Every 5 years you get an extra week, and we've scaled it up to, I think at the end you get 7 weeks vacation, and we have a huge staff on the factory floor, so for someone on a factory floor to get 7 weeks vacation is huge. So, but we consider everyone in the organization equal in terms of their longevity with the company, and we have corporate pins and we do milestones. But speaking to transparency and communication, it's huge. We found when we were very small in the early days that rumors would start. Rumors. Like this whole room would be a rumor. So we immediately decided that whenever anything like that happened, we would just call a meeting and tell them the truth. Well, this is what you're all talking about. This is what actually is happening. And from that, we used to do monthly parties. It started as weekly beer and pizza. Then we got bigger, then it got monthly. Then we had to cut out the booze because people were indulging a little bit too much at the parties.
Right.
So they became quarterly parties, and now it's an institution in our company that we do a quarterly party. And at the quarterly party, I get up and I do an economic macro view of the world. I do a micro view of the organization. And then we talk about our successes and our promotions. We acknowledge everyone. We do all milestones. We have raffles. We have draws. We're giving away stuff all over the place. And it becomes important. We have a way of welcoming our new employees at those meetings. Big shout outs to everyone. We do all that. And we've been doing it since we started. I think that we do offsites. Offsites are important. We have a very strong profit share. We give 20% of our profits go to senior execs, mid-management, our operational leaders, and everyone else. So when we do that, we have a big day away. We talk about our successes. We announce the big check. It's the anticipated moment of the year, and everyone even get the big cheers because we share a lot, and we think it's important. And I think that also the outside acknowledgement is important. We have a huge sustainability element of our business. We think it's really important. We have been selected as one of the 100 greenest employers in Canada for 6 years running. So we're really committed to it. We talk about it at our quarterly parties. And we find that our people want to be part of something that has a little more purpose. I think they're really proud of the fact that we actually care. We also do, if anyone wants to do a fundraiser, we'll match funds. So if they want to drive something, we'll let them do it. The younger crews, what we're finding is that the most important thing to them, in addition to all these wonderful things, we get asked a lot about, well, what about this employer, this green employer thing, and what about sustainability? We get asked that question a lot in recruiting. It's empowerment, to be really clear about what's your job, how can you succeed, and how are we going to train you? And we're going to put some real guidelines in place that if you want to move forward, it's going to be very clear. This is where you're at. Here's how you get to the next level. And here's the training grid. So we're going to put together a very clear training grid that everyone will know, oh, if I want to go there, I have to do this and this and this and this. Whereas before, it used to be very subjective. We want to make it very clear so they know how to advance in the organization. The idea that we'd like to start incorporating into our business is very much like the large accounting law firms that have the interns that move up when they get to a certain point, and they leave or they stay if there's an opportunity. We would like to be a training ground for really strong people. Hopefully they stay because it's a great place to be. But if they have stronger aspirations, then it's like, if you love them, let them go. That's the attitude that we want to bring into our organization, and our people feel it. They feel like we're on their side and that we want to support them. So that's a big part of it as well. On the other side, because we're a trades, so we have an internal apprentice program where we train internally and we identify talent. We move them into training cells, we move them up so that they can improve their skills.
So for the shortage of skills, you've had to basically create your own programs to...
Yes, for the trades. In the offices, we're doing very much I think we're all in alignment on how to take care of our people and to attract them and keep them. It's really important because it is a tough market.
So I like the phrase proud of purpose and transparency and building a culture and allowing employees to have personal time to grow and to become fuller individuals and better contributors to the team.
The other thing I'd add here quickly too is the family time. You talked a bit about it as well too. We really do promote work-life balance. We want 120% of your effort during the day, but we don't want you there till 8 or 9 o'clock every night either. We want you to be able to go home, spend time with family and friends, rejuvenate your batteries, as I like to put it, so you come back and you're at 100% again plus when you start, versus working long hours, and by the end of the week you start at 60%, nobody even wants to talk to you, right? And you're not as focused. So I think that goes a long way, because there's a lot of these people come from companies where the expectation is that they're there at 7, 8, 9 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
One of the parts about that I try and do is I'm in the office by 8 o'clock every morning, and sometimes it's 7. I make sure I'm out of the office by 6. And it doesn't mean I'm not working at night, because we're all running our own businesses here, right? So our days don't stop, our weekends don't stop. But what I'm really trying to say to my staff is, try and get that productive part of your day done, and then get away from it. For us, as owners and as senior people in organizations, I don't think we can survive on a 50-hour week. It'd be nice, but I think all of us have to put in lots of time based upon what we've decided to do as entrepreneurs. But that doesn't mean all your staff are entrepreneurs. It means that you're trying to create something that you're going to get great productivity from them during the periods when you're actually working with them, and you're trying to set an example that says, okay, now if that's what you're looking for in life is more of a balanced one than an entrepreneur's life, then I'm going to set some kind of standards that says it's not a problem if you leave at 6 o'clock or if you leave at 5:30.
I add one thing. We just went through a process about finding a purpose. Mm-hmm. There's that whole purpose thing. We used to be quality seating on time, which was not really a purpose. It's a tactic or a function or whatever. So we really worked hard at trying to come up with the purpose. And our purpose is to make work comfortable for all. And it sounds simple, but for us to get to that place where everything that we do bounces off that. So now when we talk about comfort, it's not just because we're in the furniture business. We want to make work comfortable for our employees. We want to make work comfortable for our suppliers, for our dealers. We want to make work comfortable for our everyone that touches our organization. We want it to be comfortable. Comfortable being a nice, warm word, but it's not about ease. It's just about easiness to be with, and ease to do business, and easy place to be, and all of those things. So purpose for us was a really big, another sort of game changer recently around giving us some real focus on how there's a thing about building a brand. It's not about the brand, it's about building the character of the business. And that's really what it's all about. It's about purpose and the character of the business, and how does everything in the business connect to make our people happy. Because we all know happy people, happy customers.